Hi, Elaine.
Hi, Louisa. Hi, Kim.
Hello.
Good to see you both.
Congratulations. Your LinkedIn is like you have really created a following and people are engaged and commenting and reacting and the articles are great. I've always said that you're an incredible writer. You're such a good writer. And anyway, I'm just like, oh my God, look at Elaine. Like you inspire me.
Thank you. This was a good post. Like I know I kind of ran with this one, and it's been really nice because I link. You know what? Also, when you have a lot of people to thank, like then they respond as well. Like when you're linking
Oh,
people,
right. Okay. Right.
even
Yeah.
though LinkedIn said don't do that, and I was like, the
Oh,
heck with that, as my father would say. Like I think
yeah.
you want to try and thank people or acknowledge as many people as you can. Kim,
Yeah.
your hair looks amazing.
I
Like
said the same thing. That's so
it looks
I just
funny.
great.
did it. I
Oh,
just
it
finally had a second to I had to do film two things today. So
looks
thank you.
good. I
Feedback.
can't
Should do my hair more often.
I can't wait to go this week. I'm like, oh, please, I moved up my appointment. Louisa, how are
Yeah.
you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I'm feeling good after my holiday and I'm just
Oh, so
sleeping so
nice.
much better now and
Oh, good.
yeah,
That makes
I'm
all the
getting
difference.
yeah, and I'm really like getting off the news I think has really helped. So,
Mm.
and getting completely off, I think. I don't even know what's happening anymore, so it kind of feels good.
I just want to know what stays in DR. I want to know.
Oh, what happens in DR stays in DR? Well, we are recording, Elaine,
Oh,
so,
okay.
that will have to be one of those late night, map summit pajama party. No, it was fine. It was great. It was just we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of
Good.
fun. There was like just tons of people, 14 of us in a beautiful
Oh,
villa.
wow.
And the villa was really beautiful, like
Oh,
really
that's great.
spectacular. Yeah. And we just hung out at the
That
villa and
makes
we
all the
were
difference.
2 minutes to the beach and
Mm.
5 minutes to really great restaurants. And it was just a lot of fun, a lot of fun. Yeah.
Amazing.
My
Yeah.
kettle just boiled. I'm just gonna go pour my tea. I'll be right back.
Okay. All right.
Now, were any of the girls I know with you?
Jeffy was there, and I think that's it. I think that's the only person you know. Yeah, yeah, I think none of
That's
the other women were there. This was the Burning Man group. So it was not like our girlfriend group. It was the Burning Man group.
Oh, amazing. And it
Yeah.
sounds like they did a great job, like with getting you there. The
Yeah.
house is
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, like the guy who organized it, it was his birthday. His name's Chucky. He's a sweetheart. And he's the one who found this villa. And we just said, like, you nailed it. Like you just hit it out of the park with this villa. It really is beautiful. Like we were looking at buying it because we loved it so much.
Wow.
Yeah, we are like, can we buy this villa? Because I don't think it would cost that much in the DR. I think it would probably be about $1 million. Like here, it would be like $12 million for something like that, if not more, right? In Toronto, 12, $14 million. There, it would be $1 million. So anyway, and we thought if 14 people went in on it, that's not that much. All right. Okay. So, let me continue on. So, what we're doing today. So, last week, Kim, I don't think you were on last week. Were you
No,
in the session?
no,
Okay. Did you get a chance to watch the okay. All right. Well, you can
no,
you can watch
sorry.
the recording. No, don't be sorry. It's just I'm going to be jumping into
Yeah.
sort of halfway into the presentation. So, I'll just do a quick recap and then we'll jump into the rest of it. And then, I encourage you to watch the recording
Mhm.
and take a look and see what we did last time. And I also have a workbook today that I want to show you
Okay.
as well. So let me share. Okay. So last week we started on our first master class on psychological capital, which is something that's put forward mainly by Fred Luthans, is the one who put that together, but he has collaborators, Avolio and a few others. I forget all of their names, but I've got a bunch of their academic articles posted in last week's master class. If you want to go back and find those. Um, and so today is masterclass and practice lab. So today we're doing the practice lab, and these slides are already posted as well, but I'll post them again on the practice lab page as well, so everybody has them. But really, we just wanted. Now, Kim, have you ever worked with psychological cap?
Yeah,
Okay, so are you familiar with this concept and this
I am.
construct? Okay, all
Mhm.
right. So you did it in your map degree?
Yeah, and I've
Yeah.
done other research on it too because it's
Oh, well
interesting to
then
my
great.
work.
Okay, then you know all of this stuff. So we just sort of went through what psychological capital is, that it's based on the hero, the hero formula: hope, efficacy, resilience, and optimism. That we just shared some of the research. We shared, some of the benefits and what are some of the outcomes of having high psychological capital, in terms of the research. Hi, Megan. Welcome. Hi, how are you? How are you doing?
Oh, just bouncing between a couple student meetings with my term wrapping up at Humber, but didn't want to miss out. So
All right.
good to be.
Okay, good. Well, good to see you. Great to see you. You look great. Everyone's looking good today. Look at this. Okay. So we talked about some of the research behind psychological capital, and then we got into the four components of the hero model. Again, hope, efficacy, resilience, and optimism. And last week we had enough time to get into hope. Okay, sorry, I was hearing a noise on my thing for some reason. So we started off with hope and some of the research on hope and how Charles Snyder would define hope, and then what are the components of hope, that you have a set goal, but then you have pathways and agency. We talked about agency and pathways thinking on hope. And we also talked about tools. So I'm creating a toolkit for psychological capital. And we've already discussed these tools, and you already have the toolkits for these, except for this one, the setting learning goals. Um, that Caroline goes through. Caroline Miller does a lot of that work on learning goals. But this will all be in the final toolkit for this month's topic on psychological capital. And what I want to do as well is I want to have like a 6 hour psychological capital workshop with a facilitator flow. But what I might do instead is, as I'm looking at it, is I might do like 4 3-hour modules on it with the workbook and the facilitator flow. Because then we could go out and say, hey, why don't we do a psychological capital workshop? There's 4 different sessions. It'll happen, at different times, kind of thing, and bring people together to do something like that, which could be one way that you could deliver something like this within an organization and do, maybe once a quarter, do a different workshop. Um, so these were some of the solution focused questions. And in the next masterclass, we are going to delve into the solution focus approach and how it relates to positive psychology as well. And again, all of these slides are already posted, but I'll post them again. So you don't have to worry about taking notes on these because you'll have all of this. Okay, so let's move on. So any questions on that um, before we move on to the next section of the slide deck? We're good? Okay. So now we're moving into, we started with hope, and now we're into efficacy, and then we'll follow up with resilience. I'm going to show you a resilience workshop that I did recently, and then finish with optimism. And we'll see how far we get. We might not get through all of this. We may So if we don't, we'll continue on in our next session to continue to finish this off. I knew this would take more than just one session. So, and I think we've already been through this before, self-efficacy, Bandura's work on self-efficacy. Anyone who's read my book knows that I did a lot of work on this, but it's an individual's belief in their capability to successfully execute the actions required to achieve a specific goal or task. And that those beliefs affect how you think, act, and feel. And when Bandura refers to a specific goal or task, he means it's different for different things. So you might believe you could cook a dinner, but not believe you can speak in front of a crowd, right? So self-efficacy is what we call domain specific. It's not like this feeling of confidence that you might just be a confident person. Self-efficacy is a belief in a certain goal or task, moving towards that. And as I mentioned last time in the psychological capital overview, when I interviewed Fred Luthens and I asked him about self efficacy, he said that in his research, he found that of all the four components of psychological capital, self efficacy was the golden ticket for performance. That's the one that was really highly correlated with performance. And I posted in last week's classroom, I posted his study. He did a meta-analysis that correlated self-efficacy with higher levels of performance within organizations. So that's why I really like to think about self-efficacy because for me, when I teach positive psychology to organizations, they don't want to just improve well-being. They want to improve performance, and that's how I can sell the ROI of some of these programs. And self-efficacy improves well-being, but also improves performance. So it's a win-win, and it's a way that I can get customers to kind of listen in and listen to me and think that, okay, maybe it's worth investing in a workshop or a program that will improve. But it's not a very popular topic. The progress principle, not a popular topic. So I think we could be on the leading edge of, something here as well, right? Um, so some people, and I had a lot of these discussions when I was writing the book about self-efficacy versus self-esteem. Um, so for years and years, schools really were focused on building kids' self-esteem. They're like, we have to make kids feel good about themselves. And so then, there was this debate about let's not give trophies, like that, let's not measure who wins the soccer tournament and, well, everybody gets a trophy. And, this kind of thinking was really not very helpful because people's, people just had an inflated sense of self-esteem without actually doing the work to actually, you know, do the work required to be successful. So if you're just showing up and really not working hard and you get a trophy. I remember one time my daughter got a trophy and she said to me, she said, Mom, we didn't win the tournament. Why are they giving us a trophy? She saw no meaning in getting a trophy when they didn't, and she worked hard and stuff, but other teams were just better and she just thought, why are we getting the trophy? So when self-esteem is inflated beyond reality, it can be detrimental to one's well-being because you think that you're entitled to all of these things when you're really not. And we're seeing this in some of the organizations we work with. These young people want to be a manager after working for 6 months, and they think that, and it could be as a result of this kind of self-esteem push, right? Now, the pursuit of self-esteem can also be detrimental to performance. And so, what I mean by that is that if I'm going to go after and do something, maybe doing that thing will actually help me learn and grow. It will help me get better at something. It will help me improve. So maybe learning something new will help me improve. but maybe I don't want to go do that thing because I might fail or look bad as I'm trying. So that's not going to make me feel good about myself. So sometimes if I'm too focused on whether, I feel good or not, or maybe if for example, one time the grade two teacher at my daughter's school said, "Hey, do you guys know any nonprofits that you work with that maybe we could, learn more about?" And I said, "Yeah, the Red Door Family Shelter. It's a homeless shelter and they're a great nonprofit and they help especially women who are in, difficult situations, fleeing domestic violence, et cetera, et cetera." And one of the parents said, "Oh no, I want my child to be, a kid a little bit longer." And I thought, okay, that's really interesting. It's almost like these people, like there's nothing wrong with being homeless. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing, like it's not it's not a traumatic thing to meet a homeless person. They're just going through a very difficult transition and they need some help with in a homeless shelter. And I just thought that was really interesting that we're always protecting and protecting and protecting our kids. And so sometimes that, kind of protection can hurt our kids who maybe these kids would have learned. I know with my kids, we volunteered with the Red Door Shelter for 20 years, and that really built their character, and they felt good about that, and it changed the way that they looked at our society and what was important, and they, they loved the work that they did at the Red Door Shelter for 20 years. We all did. Um, so anyway, if we're too focused, what I mean is if we're too focused on just making people feel good about themselves, we could be missing out on opportunities for them to learn and grow. And there's also very little research supporting the idea that building self-esteem improves performance. And so I was doing a workshop once on the growth mindset with a group of people. And I was talking about, and I'll get into this, I was talking about performance praise versus process praise. Are you familiar with that? Carol Dweck's process praise versus performance praise, or no, person praise versus process praise. And she said, well, I kind of like it when my boss says I'm a rock star. I kind of like it. And then I had to explain to her that, yeah, it's because you feel good, but there's, very little research to support that making someone feel good actually makes them perform better. And however, self-esteem is correlated with well-being. So when people feel, because self-esteem really is just a judgment about yourself. How do you feel about yourself? Do you feel like you're a good person? Do you feel like you're a bad person? Are you feeling good about yourself? And that does correlate with the well-being research. So when we feel bad about ourselves, it can also lead to feelings of depression as well. So again, self building up someone's self-esteem does not necessarily improve performance. However, it is associated with well-being. So any comments on this? Did you ever have this debate before?
I really appreciated. I learned this research luckily when my kids were smaller, and because I can be a little bit of a yeah, I got an A, therefore, I'm a good person. And learning to, when they came home and recognizing the effort made a huge difference. And I saw it in them because you can create fixed mindset. And I saw it in my work because I did a lot of quality assurance work when my work with emergency services. And we used to say, you asked this wrong, you did this wrong, a lot, and changing it. Even Carol Dweck's "yet," like, well, you haven't mastered that yet. It's my
Yeah.
favorite thing. So yeah, I've seen it really effective both with like little kids and in performance management with adults.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. When I interviewed Carol Dweck, I asked her what her favorite tool is for promoting growth mindset, and she said the power of yet. Elaine, were you going to say something?
This is very personal, but my daughter was really young. That was like a big argument that my former husband and I had, that he was really big on self-esteem and I wasn't. I just felt like, no, that's not the way you really build somebody up, right? So that was like a kind of a existential kind of disagreement that we had that was really important for me to like try and like have that kind of voice around protecting her from that
Yeah,
praise.
I
And I
love
love the
that.
story about with the girls and your daughter and the meaning, like why did I get this
Yeah,
trophy? It's
yeah,
perfect. It's like great. It's a great topic, Louisa. Love
yeah,
self-efficacy is definitely, it's just an important thing. So let's.
yeah. Megan, go ahead, Megan.
Sorry, I'm not at home, and for some reason, Zoom where I am is not giving me the like raise hand option, so apologies.
That's fine.
I heard a called care direct stuff and I love it. It always echoes. I talk a lot with a close friend that's a Montessori teacher, and so again, Maria Montessori's work it was all about the neuroscience of how brains are, and you know, sort of way back when she was alive, it was actually with kids that would be today called, developmental disability or intellectual disability, but it was again this idea that people learn differently. And but I always remember being over visiting her when her son was 2 and 3 years old, right? And just the way she talked to him, it's all this stuff, right, that we know now. But that was very Montessori-ish, right? Is to talk about the process and to pray, like the approach. And I saw how incredibly different he was compared to other friends that had kids of the same age that were getting more the you're bad, or you're like the message, or even the good stuff, like you're so pretty, you're so smart, right? But it's again, it's the you versus about, oh, I love how you put your outfit together.
Right,
So,
right.
so,
Yeah.
so for her, even though I at that point didn't know Carol Dweck's work, I loved it. It was so beautiful to see compared to how I was parented or how other people were parented. So it's great to see this spreading because I think it's even as a teacher, just wrapping up my college. I mean, I'm having, students stressing, but I hear a lot. I try to bring this to how I give them feedback and how I talk to them. It's not you're late or you're bad about handing your assignments in, right? It's how is this lateness impacting you? How do you think it might impact in the job? And like just getting there. And I get lots of positive. It's good for my ego too. But anyway, lovely to hear. I love hearing
So
the like
good.
more of the, I'm rambling now, but more of the detail behind it, right? Of like,
Yeah.
because you see it in practice sometimes, but I'd love to understand deeper like why this works, right? So.
Yeah. No, but I love that, Megan, because just like Kim said earlier, like you can promote a growth or a fixed mindset. And it sounds to me like you've taken on these concepts, and now with your students, you're using the language that helps to promote a growth mindset. And I think that's really important when we're giving people feedback. I even use it in the workplace. I was talking to a leader the other day who was describing an exact scenario. And I thought that person has a fixed mindset. And so I explained the concept to him. And he has a young son. And I said, you should really read this book. It will really help you even as a father. So that this is how we'll apply it with your employee. But I really encourage you to also read it as a father. And he found it very interesting. Now I have more slides on the growth mindset and the fixed mindset, but I just wanted to have this kind of self-efficacy versus self-esteem debate. And you know who else helped me a lot with this in the book was oh, I can see her face, and I'm blanking on her name, the researcher. She does ego versus eco. Oh, I can't believe Jenny. Anyway, you know what? It'll come to me. It'll come to me. I'm having a menopause moment. I'm usually so good with these researchers' name. I could see her face right there, and I can't remember her name. Okay. Um, and again, we already went through this before, but the how self-efficacy works is we have a certain belief, and then that belief leads to certain motivations, which help us to be successful. And then we have a certain performance. And then how we interpret that performance can make a difference as to whether we reinforce that belief, again, right? So, and usually our interpretation is subjective, right? So if we have a belief that we can't really do something, we might not be motivated to do it and have a bad performance. And then we have a bad performance, say, see, I told you I couldn't do it, right? It reinforces. Then the opposite is true, right? Um, so this is kind of, beliefs as self-fulfilling prophecies. And The Galatea effect, an individual's opinion about his or her ability and self-expectations about his or her performance largely determine his or her performance. If a person thinks he or she can succeed, sure, he will likely succeed. I need to change the gender language on this slide. Did I just blank out there? Did I just? Oh, okay, because I froze. Okay. And oftentimes I find, especially within organizations, that people are telling people all the time what they're doing wrong, as if self-awareness of weaknesses is what drives performance. Like, I better tell you everything you did wrong in that performance. And that's not actually what drives performance. And yet, that's mostly what people focus in on, what the person did wrong. They don't even see what the person did right. They're only looking for what the person did wrong. So making people self-aware of their weaknesses does not reinforce their beliefs. And that's really at the core of it. It is the belief that is the important target with strengths-based feedback. How do you change a belief? Because if you can change a belief, going back to this, right, you get better performance. It's the belief that needs to change. Okay, so, and as a result of that, when people have these high levels of self-efficacy for, say, for example, for anything, let's talk about Elaine and Aquasize, for example, right? Elaine, you know, what you attempt, you set challenging goals, right? Well, Elaine wrote a whole book about it, right? So that's like, she's in like the top 1 percentile of people, who know this stuff, right? So, how hard they try, how much effort they expend, right? How long they persist, right? How they interpret setbacks, right? They're not failures, just challenges to overcome. How they use feedback, how they regulate emotion, how they allocate cognitive resources. So that's a full motivational, cognitive, emotional architecture right here. So if you think about it, like if I said, here's the magic pill that will do all of these things, all of these things are associated with high levels of self-efficacy. So it's no wonder it drives performance because all of these things help people perform better and be more successful. And then we've also talked about this before too, so I'm not going to spend a whole ton of time. We've done this before. But in terms of the 4 sources of self-efficacy, mastery experiences, when people go out and try something and they're successful, then it sends a message to their brain, I can do this again, and it builds their confidence. Watching others, whether that's a role model, do something, or even having mental rehearsal in our head, this can help us also improve self-efficacy, encouragement from others, so coaching, mentoring, etc., and how our body feels. So if I'm feeling good, and this is why, I work out in the mornings too. And I talked to Alona Bonnywell about this, and I said, what is it about working out in the morning? And she says, you feel like you've already had an accomplishment in the morning, right? And your body can also feel it. So when you're running up the stairs because you feel strong, it sends a message to your mind, oh, you're strong, right? You're a strong person, right? So all of these things, this is why. And Elaine wrote an article in LinkedIn and said something that caught my eye, and I mentioned it in the comments, Elaine, about how what if moving. I'm going to get it wrong, but I think Elaine. Like, what if movement and moving your body really can bring you meaning in your life? And that really struck me because I thought it does, but it also helps me show up in a certain way in the day. When I feel strong in my body, I do feel more energetic. I do feel like doing more, and so it does help you to be more, to be more confident. Yeah, Elaine, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to ditto what Alona Bonuel said. And also in theories of motivation, there's a concept called the Zeigarnik effect, which is intention creates tension until the task is completed. So by you doing that in the morning, right, it's like you literally cross it off your list and that lowers your like distress level.
Okay, that's really interesting. And can you send or post a little more information about the
Yeah,
what is it? The is
Zeigarnik.
Yeah, Zygarnik. I would love to learn a little bit more about that, Elaine. That
Yeah,
sounds really
happy to
cool.
share more.
Okay, thank you.
That's awesome. I have even just explained what I try and do because I if I don't work out in the morning, I think about it all day and it's exhausting.
Yeah,
Right?
I
Yeah.
know. I worked out this morning and then I wanted to do a yoga class and then at well, not yoga, a hot hit class at 5:15 and then I realized like an hour ago I'm not going to make it there in time because this finishes at 5. I'm not going to there's no way and they don't let you in late. So I thought okay, I'll just go downstairs and work out again because I wanted to do two workouts today.
I have to
Um
admit, absolutely hate working out in the morning. So I'm a night workouter, but it works for me, right? Which is, I think, the key thing.
yeah, and if you know you're going to work out at night, you're not thinking about it during the day. You're
Well, that's
like,
I
no,
think that seems to be
right?
the key here is about the way your mind is or isn't ruminating on the issue, right? And so it's about setting yourself up for success around that,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
Versus
that's right.
yeah.
Yeah, no, no, exactly, exactly. If you go back to our progress principle masterclass 2, we associated self-efficacy with small wins. How do small wins build self-efficacy? So I'm just gonna keep going. But there was a piece of research where they assessed the impact of training designed to boost general self-efficacy on job search activity and on reemployment among 66 people unemployed for up to 18 weeks. So they wanted to see if they could just build the self-efficacy of people who were, trying to find a job. And so they randomly assigned experimental participants that attended 8 behavioral modeling workshop sessions over 2.5 weeks. And the results show that training boosted GSE as intended. And the workshop also increased job search activity, confirming the hypothesis that raising GSE motivates intensification of effort. So people were engaged more in those job search activities. And we know that it's those activities that help people find work, right? The workshop also increased reemployment among participants low in initial GSE, but not among those with high GSE. So it didn't help people who were already high in generalized self efficacy, but it did help those who were low. And so when we think about programs where we can help youth, just improving their self efficacy about their ability to be able to even engage life and have, and be in control of their lives and manage their stress and manage their resilience, I think can help them be better at work, better at trying to, for different jobs and things like that. So I think it can be good for everybody, but especially youth, I think. So what I did was I very, very many, many years ago, I was part of this organization called Wired Woman in the late 90s with my friend Denise. And what we did was we were trying to promote women getting into technology. Like, the internet had just come out, so we were trying to promote them getting jobs and learning HTML and all that stuff. And so we created a 10-month technology program for unemployed women on social assistance. Many of them were single parents. Many of them had been out of the workforce for decades, and they just felt useless. Like they just felt that they couldn't do anything. And so we put it out there. There are women who applied to this 10-month program. And what I did was I coordinated with DeVry, which is a very popular technology sort of institute in Toronto. I don't even know if DeVry's still around or not. Do you remember DeVry, the Technology Institute, DeVry? Um, and so they were our partner. So they taught the tech skills. Dixon Hall was our office management skills. So we did that. And I really thought about this program. So we did 12 weeks of career related workshops and self esteem building workshops and life skills. And this is prior to me knowing about self efficacy as well. I don't know how I just thought of this. This is just intuitive for me. And then I did 12 weeks of technology training. And then we did 12 weeks of internship. class coupled with a mentor during internship and 4 weeks of employment assistance. And every single woman found a job. And those women still write to me and say how that program changed their life. And it's really cool to see that they're in technology now. You'd never would have known that they'd be out of work for so many years. But there was one woman in the group who she'd gone through a very, very traumatic childhood. She had been kind of tortured as a child because she was born out of a rape. So her mother really, I guess, directed her anger towards, you know, this woman. And she grew up, and so she really did not feel good about herself. I'll call her Susan. And Susan was my star student in this program. She was incredible. She was teaching everybody else all the tech skills, and people loved her. She was very personable. She was super smart, and like she just did everything great. And I thought, oh, she's going to get a job like right away. And so when we went to do her resume and send it out there, I asked her, so you're sending your resume out? And she said, well, what's the point? They're going to hire me and think I'm an idiot anyway. And I thought, wow. And that's when I really realized that's when this idea, I was like, I need to learn more about how beliefs affect people's behavior because she obviously has the skills. It has nothing to do with how skilled she is and how talented she is. I know she's talented and skilled, but if she doesn't believe it, she's not going to go out and do it. So that's what really got me interested in this whole idea behind beliefs and how they affect people's behavior. But when I created this program, I really built in, this idea around, building self-efficacy. And again, this is prior to me knowing anything about self-efficacy. I didn't know anything about it. This was in the late 90s. So I think it was 1998 or something. So, again, this 12 weeks of technology training created performance experiences. The internship created more performance experiences, social persuasion and modeling. And then, again, and so what I just to finish with my story with Susan, what I said to her is I said, look, Susan, we'll do your resume after you do your internship. Go and do your internship. And she's like, "Oh, I don't know if I can do the internship." I said, "Listen, just go and do it. They're not paying for it. Like if you swept the floor, they'd be fine with that because they're not paying a dime for you. So just go and see what you can learn. And and we're here to help you. We gave all of them a mentor." Anyway, she went and she did the internship. And when she got back, I said, "So, are you ready to send out your resume?" She said, "Louise, I already have a job." I said, "Oh my gosh, what happened?" And she said, "Well, I realized when I went to the internship that I know more than half the people there. And so, I just knew I could apply for a job." So that's what convinced her is going on the job, having those performance experiences in real life, in a real situation. That's what finally convinced her when she was doing it and seeing how good she was. That made the difference. So anyway, that's kind of like I love that story. And so I just have other ideas for building self-efficacy, having your clients practice or vicarious experiences, assign people to successful work groups, show videos, share stories, bring your clients along and model how it's done, have people visualize themselves doing it, have that mental rehearsal, verbal persuasion. So having people being coached and encouraged and mentored, physiological self-regulation, right? Teach people to mitigate stress arousal. Again, mental rehearsal I find helps a lot too. So there's lots of different things. You can take those four components and teach leaders, how to do some of these things, right? To bring people along. When you think of the four contributors to self-efficacy, it's very easy to see how it can be applied in the workplace. As a leader, you can create these opportunities for people. And like I have a client, for example, a leader did a developmental plan with this guy, and I'm telling you, he was so good at this. And then he said, and there's this one thing that he wants to get better at. And I thought, why doesn't he be the liaison for the department? So he's now going to be the cross-functional liaison amongst all the other departments. So he's just naturally going to learn all of these things. He doesn't know really much about it right now, but he will learn that way. And the guy was really excited about being that, liaison with all the other departments. And he said, well, I don't know much about this. He said, yeah, and you're going to learn. You're going to learn all this stuff because you're going to be in conversation with all those people. And I was so proud of this leader who thought of this project that, or this role that this guy could take on. And he made the connection in terms of what the guy needed to learn and then an opportunity of how he could learn it. And I just love that. It's just a great example of, how we can be doing these things within an organization. So when you reflect on the four ways, what ideas do you have to build the self-efficacy of your clients? I'm just curious. I just want to throw it out to you guys. What do you think when you think about some of these ways? Yeah, Elaine, go ahead.
So I love this. I love all the four pieces. And thinking about what you said about efficacy being like the golden ticket. Of course, I have to think about how like movement and like when we care for our physical body, again, like with balance of like the heart, mind, soul, and your systems, that it does give you that self-efficacy. And I think it can even lead to meaning. And again, I feel, Louisa, you're such a great role model for me. Like you've made this, like you've been doing the walking pad and you've been like going to yoga and you've been like doing all these like positive changes. So I think that when you do that, when you care for your body, then you can help yourself and other people and then systems and communities and families.
Yeah, yes. Okay, so but let me ask you this, Elaine. When you did your exercise program with these women who were very, very much like they were in their 80s, right? These women were like in their 70s and 80s. They were not young, they were older. I'm sure you must have had some of them who said, "Oh no, I can't do that," or I can't. How did you convince them to maybe try things that they
So
didn't feel?
yeah, I think it was like definitely a strategy and from appreciative leadership in mind. So just be welcoming, connect people to each other so that there's that accountability. Try and build progression and movement so that when you do like a combination of movements, you're kind of breaking it down, making it interesting and adding like engagement and complexity, but not so much that people get frustrated. And then you celebrate like wins, like, oh wow, you did this, it looks great. And just to build in community as part of it. I think there's a collective efficacy that really helps provide for the group and also you as an individual. So
And,
those are a
and I
couple
think
things.
that is very powerful. Yes. And you did. And that was really at the heart of your research, too. It was the community. And you're right. When other people are doing it along with you and you're seeing, oh, that person over there just fell over. So I guess I'm okay. I'm all right. Like even if I'm falling over here, so is she. So it's okay. We can do this together. I
Yeah,
think
nobody fell
it is
over.
very,
It's
yeah.
just like,
Yes.
no.
Sure, sure. I'm just hypothetically, but I'm just saying, like if someone's not doing it perfect. Like the other day I was doing a hit class and she suggested like the next move, right? And I'm like, oh, I don't know what is like I didn't get it. I just like I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So when you go to try and do the move, you look around and you go, okay, let me see. Someone else in the group must know how to do this move, right? So I turned to the woman next to me to look to see how she was going to do the move, and she looked at me like we both and we both had a moment of, wait, don't look at me. I'm looking at you to learn the move. And we both laughed our head off because we're both like looking at each other. But I think that community, and then also you said the progression of moves. And I think that's it too, that people think that they have to go from 0 to 10, whereas really you just have to take people from 0 to 1. And I wrote this too, don't show the person the mountain, show them the first step. And I think that can be a very easy way to build self-efficacy. Kim, go ahead. Did you unmute for?
Can you go back just to the list of the four?
Yeah. So this one,
Yeah. Um, I'm trying to think where this fits. Um, but it was something that you and I were talking about yesterday, Louisa, and it strikes me that allowing people, letting them know that things can feel uncomfortable and they can still do it. I, that's been something that's just been coming up a lot for me lately. Like and it's Elaine, what you were talking about. It's uncomfortable to think about working out all day long and not do it. It
Yeah.
might be uncomfortable to get out in the cold morning and then go work out. So they're both uncomfortable. And it's this concept of choosing your discomfort and realizing like you can do that. So it just strikes me that like, where does that, maybe that's just practicing and knowing, because there's something about doing it and then going, oh, actually, that wasn't as bad at all. Because every time I go to the gym, I'm like, why was this such a struggle? I love being there. It's like the one place in my entire world where I'm in flow. I just, every time I'm like, you're an idiot. Why didn't you just go do this?
Yeah.
But having to learn that.
Yes. I think, like, not so much with the discomfort of going to the gym, but the discomfort of trying something new and knowing that
Mm,
you're not good at it and sitting there.
yeah.
And I think there was one study done with TED Talk people.
Mm,
I'll see if I can find it. And what they did, I don't know if it was a study or if someone just wrote an article about it, but it was a great article about how what they did was they told these because everybody's really nervous to do a TED Talk. Like even
yeah.
very experienced experts, are very nervous when they're doing a TED Talk. And so what they did in the training is they tell them being nervous before a TED Talk is actually totally normal. So if your body is shaking, like if you're shaking because you're so nervous, that actually looks good on you. It looks good on you because it's normal for you to feel that way. And so when you can sort of name it with the person and say, you're going to be uncomfortable when you get up there for the first time. It's not going to be so easy. It's going to be difficult. You might fall over or you might, shake. Then people calm down a little bit. And that could be the final one, which is also like a reinterpretation of your
Hmm.
discomfort in your body. It's not right, right? I
So
think
that,
that's what it is.
yes, and that is more Lisa Barrett Feldman's work, where it's constructing emotions, right? So and it's a key one is nervous to excited, right? It's
Exactly,
exact same
exactly,
feeling in the body. And if you just tell yourself you're more excited than nervous, your brain believes what you tell it. I had
exactly.
actually for years, I'm quite claustrophobic. And for years, going to the dentist was incredibly difficult. Like if I had a cavity, my heart raced. I just felt so panicky. And one day, the dental hygienist, they put the freezing in and they knew. So I knew they were really good. Like they tried not to do a dental dam if they didn't need to, and they would let me sit up if I needed to. But she said, and of course, we put the freezing in and, feeling tingly in your face and your heart rate increasing is the normal effects of lidocaine. I'm like, what now? What? What did you just say? She goes, and I'm like, oh, I'm not having a panic attack. This is what lidocaine does. And I've
There we go.
never had an issue again. I'm like, why didn't I know
There we
that?
go.
Yeah,
It's a reinterpretation.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Megan, go ahead. Were you going to
Just
say
quickly,
something?
I want to build off that because I was trying to think too where this fit in. I think it kind of builds off what Kim was saying. Because the other day I was at something with some of my students that are graduating in the developmental service worker program. We have speakers in, and they're usually past grads. And the one person has been in the field for like 15 years. And he basically said to them, hey, I'm still nervous. I'm still nervous to be up here. I'm still nervous when I get a different client situation that I don't know how to. And like you could almost feel the whole room, like the students kind of go, oh. oh, this person who's been doing this for 15 years still gets nervous, still feel. And so we actually talked after with a few of the teachers too, because I'll say something to them about being nervous. They're like, "How are you nervous talking?" I'm like, I said, I've just done it for enough years that I've kind of overcome. But when I was starting, like my hands would shake and I'd have the I don't know. Again, it's sort of I think maybe in the similar thing of like just to hear from somebody who you are looking up to tell you that they also either have had or have that struggle, right? And I think that was echoed in this, but it just reminded me like I could almost see the students like visibly almost go, oh, oh, right. Like it's again, it's okay. It's okay that I'm nervous about this stuff. So I
Yeah.
love that idea. I think that's in leadership stuff too, right? Normalizing a lot of this. So
Yeah,
um,
yeah, and reinterpreting that, that it's actually okay, to be, and it's actually normal. Like, and I talk a lot about that in my book, that why do we think we need to be perfect? We never tried this thing before, and yet we have so much pressure that we have to show up and be perfect. Like, it's just weird, right? It doesn't even make sense. Elaine, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I love Megan, that's such a great story about that speaker, and Kim
Mm.
agree, like this such a great topic. And I don't know if I said this, but there was this great speaker at the conference in Madrid, Thomas Einschmidt, and he talked about conscious capitalism, and we were having dinner and he was talking about how he did a TED talk and he was like a wreck because he's not good at memorizing. So he got there and he got on stage and he just couldn't remember anything he was supposed to say, like at the beginning. So he was just like calm and like, I guess, took a breath, and then he remembered and he started. And at the end,
God.
he said, all these people came up to him and said, that pause you took was so effective.
Oh,
So just like, you know,
and see, they didn't even see it. Oh my
and I think usually
gosh, I love that.
audiences are cheering for,
Yeah.
the speaker for the
the
most part.
Wizard of Oz effect, right? Don't look behind the curtain. They don't, if you
Yeah,
don't tell them that
that's
you
right.
screwed up, they don't know you screwed up.
That's true. Exactly. Exactly. Oh, yeah, that's good. Oh, I really hold on, I want to see if I shared sound because I this is one of my favorite recordings of Albert Bandura, and I think I wanted to share it sometime with you guys. Did you ever hear this story? So this is a story about collective efficacy, and he's going to share with you an experiment that he did to try to change people's behaviors about wearing condoms. And so you'll see what they have to say. And it's just a few minutes long, so we'll see.
So a huge effort of
So sorry, this is Albert Bandura. Okay, so this is an original interview with Albert Bandura.
these of the serial drama is to
But in this case, it's not only a matter of individual efficacy, but also of collective efficacy. That's another topic that you addressed.
well, yes, because when you're working with society-wide change,
Yeah.
you have to enable people to believe that as a group they can effect change. And um, in in the AIDS one in Tanzania, see, in the dramas we also always have three models: a positive.
Sorry, when he talks about a drama, people have radios. This is in Africa in the 70s. So everyone had a radio, and they used to have these dramas, like these soap operas, and people used to listen. So when he says the dramas, that's what he's talking about. People are listening to these stories on their radio.
Positive model, leading a pretty functional life. Negative model, very dysfunctional, self-destructive life, and then a transition model, one who starts negative and goes positive. So in Tanzania, AIDS is transmitted heterosexually in these truck stops, and there are about 400 or 500 prostitutes. About two-thirds of them are infected, and then about a third of the truckers are infected. So we have, in the drama, we have three truckers. One is unprotected. It's clear that he's going to get infected, and then one who is cut back on partners and is protected, and then we have the transitional one. So these two truckers try to get his buddy to begin to adopt self-protective practices. He refuses, and in the drama, he contacts AIDS, and then we try to raise the status of women here. That women do not have to be victims of a person who obviously would infect him and so on. So we work on that as well.
But you to develop a kind of collective agency. That means in order to be able to deal with problems that are quite at collective level, at community level, not only at individual.
That's right, because we also are dealing with how do you build the efficacy, and that's done collectively. How to build build and provide the support for the wife. So in the broadcast region, the national AIDS program there distributed 32 million condoms, and in the control region, 1 million. So these are in our dramas in India. We have an audience of 125 million, and we're dealing with for a psychologist. That's a good number.
Very busy over a variety of topics.
So, so what I love about that is, so when you think about it, this idea of building collective efficacy on a team, right? And that can make a difference too at a team level. He's talking about at a societal level now. So you can see that the novella, so what he did was he projected one version of the novella to one group and the other version to the other group, the one that built his self efficacy concepts into it, where they were convincing this guy to be more protected in his sex. And that group bought 32 million condoms compared to 1 million condoms in the other group. So it was a huge success, like pretty, and that's why he's saying like pretty successful for a psychologist to, have this kind of effect on society just by changing a novella that people listen to every day. And I got into this conversation with someone about how when we were younger, we used to watch shows that had these moral values that taught us moral values, like Little House on the Prairie and things like that. And those were really important, and I think we've kind of lost some of that now. But there are ways that we can build, like even at the organizational level, the collective efficacy that we need on teams. Now it's 4:58, so I think I'm gonna stop there. Where am I? Yeah, because then we get into and actually, maybe I'll just share because then what I want to do, because we're talking about self-efficacy and beliefs, other related topics are stereotype threat. Because, if we believe that we're part of a certain stereotype, that can make a difference. And Carol Dweck's work, and we'll talk about the growth mindset. And then we'll get into resilience. So I guess in the next session that we do, I will share my resilience workshop that I did and give you the workbook and the facilitator guide for that as well. And I'm also going to share what I do to promote to teach optimism as well. So it's continuing the saga of psychological capital. Okay. See you, Megan. Okay, guys. Elena can't hear you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. It's fabulous.
Yeah,
Yeah, this
good.
is
We had a
great.
good discussion today. I loved our discussion today. So good. So we'll just continue on. There's so much on this topic, but I think it can be something that we can bring to an organization. you know,
Yeah.
4 different modules. And then by the end of this, by the end of in the next few weeks, by the end of this month's theme, I will have all of the slides, the workbook, the facilitator guides so that we can go out and actually like sell this if we wanted to, just sell the whole idea of psychological capital if we wanted to.
Amazing.
Great.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank
All
Wonderful.
right.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, guys. All right. Have a good
Thank
night,
you.
and we'll see you
Bye.
next week. Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.